It's Wednesday, February 2nd, and this is episode 58 of the New England Casino and Gambling Podcast.
Yay!
Welcome to the New England Casino and Gambling Podcast, a production of AnytimeGambling.com, your complete coverage of New England casinos and recreational gambling. So you got your Dunkin's coffee ready? Because our next Wicked episode is going to be starting right now. Welcome back to episode 58, and welcome back to the day that has more twos in its numerical date than any other date except for February 22nd. Today we pay homage to twos in life and in gambling. Especially in gambling, especially since today's numerical date is 2/2/2022. The only date that will have more twos than today is February 22nd. So let's first look at some famous twos. How about the first two casinos on the Las Vegas Strip? It wasn't Flamingo, it was El Rancho followed by Frontier. Now the first two casinos in New England were Connecticut's both Foxwoods in 1992 and Mohegan Sun in 1996. In Atlantic City, the first two casinos were Resorts and Caesars AC, which was known then as Caesars Boardwalk Regency. The first two states that have sports betting in New England, Rhode Island and New Hampshire. 2 is an auspicious number in the Chinese culture, with the belief that good things happen in pairs. The number 2 in numerology actually says you possess affirming characteristics such as charm and empathy. And if you happen to be seeing 222 more often, well, it means your guardian angel is looking over you, with the meaning that you are on the right path or the right place at the right time. 222 is known as the angelic number. Somehow I think my guardian angel is just playing tricks on me, because when I get 3 deuces on a double-double bonus machine, I don't necessarily get the right path of a 4th deuce and a kicker. And while we're speaking of the casino, let's talk about twos in a casino, or what they're called, deuces. The term deuce actually comes from France in the 16th century, and it was used as, well, an intensive word. For example, what the deuce were you thinking of? Or, what the deuce is he doing? I'm sure we could use deuce in this way to take the place of, let's just say, some edgier words. At the craps table, one die with 2 dots is called a deuce, or a hard 2, which is 2 dice, showing 1 dot, is also called a deuce. A very important deuce, or 2, is Class 2 gaming, which includes bingo and non-banked card games, similar to what you find in New Hampshire's charitable gaming. Class 2 gaming is very important because tribes do not need to enter into any agreements at the state level to conduct Class 2 gaming. The latest Class 2 gaming in New England that is being built on Martha's Vineyard is still in limbo. The Wampanoag Akina tribe still hopes that things will get ironed out and they will be able to continue building their casino. Hey, some people like to play 2 bingo cards, or 2 by 2 by 2. Yes, some people actually play 8 cards, but let's just say for today it's 2 times 2 times 2. The most famous use of the deuce at the casino is the number 2, whether it's in a deck of cards or electronically on a video poker machine. And that's where we're going to be going in a few minutes. We have breaking news from Encore, Boston Harbor. So it's time for News in 1 Minute. News in 1 minute. Encore Boston Harbor has finally reopened its poker room for the first time since the pandemic, which you'd expect would bring just tears of joy from poker players in that area. However, limited hours and seating, along with a rate that's going to be tough to beat, has put a damper on the reopening. The first time it's been open since March of 2020. From the beginning, the games filled up with lengthy wait lists due to two reasons. Number one, players had been eagerly waiting for nearly 2 years for it to reopen. The other reason being only 12 tables open, 60 fewer than pre-COVID times. The biggest concern was the room's unconventionally high cash game rake. Apparently, EBH is charging 10% rake up to $10 per hand. So why are players willing to pay the rake? 3 words: location, location, location. The 3 other poker rooms in MGM Springfield, Foxwoods, and Mohegan Sun are 2.5 hours away. The Foxwoods rake is half that of EBH, so unless the players are willing to drive 2.5 hours, they will be stuck with playing with a significant rake that will eat into their profits, but not the casinos. And that's your news in 1 minute.
News in 1 minute.
Video poker has grown from its basic roots as what was essentially a simulation of the 5-card draw poker game. The initial video poker game was Jacks or Better, which was known for its steady play, but sometimes Jacks or Better can just become a little stale, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for big playoffs in Jacks or Better. Deuces Wild Video Poker remains the most commonly found variation of the so-called wild video poker games. You can understand how to play it well with just a basic grasp of video poker and what wild cards bring to the game. 2 types of video poker games came along to add more variety and more excitement to the game. One was bonus poker, which included bonus poker, double bonus poker, double bonus poker, well, you get the idea. And the other was Deuces Wild. Deuces Wild Video Poker stands out among the wild card games for the familiarity of its concept and the simplicity of the gameplay. With 4 wild cards and a deck of 52 cards, Deuces Wild Video Poker puts hands that would be a huge long shot in other video poker games in the grasp of players. It even creates a hand that couldn't be achieved anywhere else without the wild cards, and that's 5 of a kind. Here are the benefits of Deuces Wild. Well, it's easy to understand gameplay. The excitement of the wild cards helps, and there are numerous competitive pay tables. Drawbacks? Well, there are a lot of low or no payoff common hands. There are lots of different pay tables to sift through, and absolute beginners might struggle with wildcard concepts. Note there's a major difference between the Deuces Wild strategy chart and the one that is learned for Jacks or Better. In Jacks or Better, the decisions you're making are the same at all times. This isn't the case in Deuces Wild. The strategy chart and the decisions you'll be making all depend on how many deuces or wild cards you're holding. This will make more sense when you start delving into the correct strategy for Deuces Wild. Make sure that you keep in mind that anything you learned with Jacks or Better strategy is completely useless for Deuces Wild. For example, in Deuces Wild, 2-pair is nothing like Jacks or Better. In Jacks or Better, you would play both pair. In Deuces Wild, for the most part, you only play 1 pair hoping for wild cards. It's important to realize that 2 kings or 2 aces have the same small value as 2 3s or 2 8s. But when it comes to Deuces Wild, the most important part is to know the pay tables. And there are tons of pay tables for Deuces Wild. Deuces Wild used to be very famous as one of the few games that you could actually make money on with a payback of over 100%. Well, those particular games are being seen less and less, and especially out in Las Vegas where they were plentiful, are now hard to come by. The most prevalent payback percentage for Deuces Wild these days in casinos is a 97.6% pay table with the following. Starting with a wild royal flush down to 3 of a kind, it would be 20, 12, 9, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, you'll find many pay table possibilities and variations, and you need to be careful about which you play. So be sure to check the pay tables. It's very important when playing Deuces Wild. Practice the strategy. If you play Jacks or Better strategy, it is nothing like what you need to play for a Deuces Wild game. And that's the end to our tribute to the number 2 on 2/2/2022. And if you have a chance, if you never played Deuces Wild, try it. It's a nice change to the Jacks or Better based games. I hope you come back next Wednesday, and we hope you have a great week. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others and post about it on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Anytime Gambling, on Facebook at both AnytimeGambling.com, and by following me, Robin Aubin. And don't forget our website called, well, what do you think? AnytimeGambling.com. Remember, the NE stands for New England. And as we say at NETG, embrace the math, not the myth. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.